In today's presentation, we are going to be covering turf laying and everything that you need to do to prepare for turf laying. So the turf laying guide, before any work is carried out, you should first work out the size of the area that you're looking to turf. This can be done simply by measuring the area and working out the square meters. This can be simple for box shape areas, but for more irregular areas, this may require more in-depth math. As soon as we've figured out how much turf we need, we can start thinking about ordering it. Typically, turf suppliers will cut each roll into 1 square meter. This is why it's important to work out the area in square meters. Now, turf rolls aren't always the same size either. I've ordered turf before in the past, which has come thicker and also longer than a meter squared. Next, you want to choose a type of turf that will suit your needs, whether it's a shade tolerant, sports turf, or an amenity turf. Then place the order. The turf needs to be laid as soon as possible after it's been delivered, ideally within 24 hours. Therefore, your turf order should be no more than 1 day after and ideally on the same day for when you plan to lay the turf after your preparations are done in advance. If you can't lay the turf immediately, try and keep it in a shaded area, particularly in the hot weather. Remove any sort of wrapping from the pallet, and if you can, even roll it out and water it. Now, once we've got our turf ordered and we've planned a date for turfing, we need to start preparing the ground. Proper ground preparation is essential for the establishment and future well-being of the turf. Inadequately prepared ground will never produce the best results, so it's worth putting in a bit of time and effort at this stage. You want to remove any existing turf by slicing off beneath the turf with a spade or turf iron. For larger areas, you may consider using or hiring a turf cutter. If the area is previously a patio or driveway, for example, the hard standing surface will need to be removed and replaced with a suitable soil. Then the soil needs to be turned over thoroughly to a depth of at least 15 centimeters using a spade or a powered cultivator. Next, we want to start raking the ground and preparing it for turf. Before we're laying the turf, the ground needs to be leveled and the surface should be firm but not compacted. Rake the area to produce a smooth and level surface. You can lightly tread over the surface by foot to reveal any soft patches, which can then be raked level again. This process should continue until the whole area is firm and level. At this point, additional soil may be required to gain the desired levels and contours within your turf. Now, actually laying the turf, we're getting to the good bit now. So, now that the hard work has been done to prepare the ground, you're ready to lay your new turf. I always recommend using planks or boards when working on turf to avoid working on any of the turf directly, especially as now it's a new lawn. Some turf suppliers may provide you with a pre-turfing fertilizer to help you get the turf off to its best start. Sprinkle this onto the prepared ground and follow the advice on the pack. It may require watering before you can lay the lawn. You can start by unrolling 1 strip of turf around the perimeter of the lawn. Avoid using small pieces at the edges. These can dry out and perish very quickly. Ensure that the underside of the new turf is in full contact with the soil below. Once you've done the perimeter, you want to lay the next strip along the longest straight run and then continue to work across the area, strip by strip, producing a pattern similar to brickwork. Now, this is important because you don't want all the joints in one line, because if the grass does dry up in the hot summer months, because that line will reform and become a line in your lawn. Put adjoining edges against each other, but avoid stretching the turf. If you do stretch the turf, once it dries out, it will shrink, and then you will end up with those unsightly gaps between the turf that we spoke about earlier. Overlapping pieces and ends of rows should be cut off neatly using a sharp knife, half moon edger, or an old wood saw. Once the turf is laid, a light top dressing is recommended to prevent any joints from drying up during the droughts. Now, watering, one of the most important parts of a new lawn, especially in the summer months. Newly laid turf needs watering well to root and get off the ground for a good start. The amount of water will be dependent on the time of year that you lay the turf and the weather conditions, with typically much more water needed during the summer months. You should water new turf immediately after laying using a hosepipe or sprinkler and continue until the water is soaked through the soil beneath the turf layer. You can check this by just lifting up the turf and having a look underneath. So over the next following weeks, you want to continue watering the turf as much as possible. Sometimes it may rain, but it may also still need water, as if it's been hot or it's been dry, it can soon dry up quickly, especially in the wind. The hotter, the drier, and the windier the weather, the more water that will be needed. And any signs that the turf is drying out, you should water immediately. Gaps will form, it will begin lifting, it will begin browning off and curling over and wilting. and you don't want that on your new lawn. And next on our list is mowing. Depending on the time of year that you lay your turf, the first mow can vary massively, but the turf should be ready for its first mow in about 2 or 3 weeks following laying. But this can be shorter during the summer months and longer during the winter months. Resist the temptation to make the initial cut until the turf is well rooted. This can easily be checked by lifting a corner in the middle of the grass to check to see if the roots are attached to the soil layer below. For the first mow, set the lawnmower to the highest possible setting to avoid stressing the grass. The aim is to nib the ends of the grass off during the first cut. This helps promote root growth while keeping the plant under control. Then ensure that we're mowing regularly, each time removing no more than 1/3 of the grass height. When the lawn is fully established, the height of the cut can be reduced gradually and the optimum height is between 15 and 35 millimeters. Do this gradually to avoid any scalping of the grass.